Hi guys, and welcome to this new section. In this section we are going to learn about expressions. I will demonstrate to you how to use expressions, the concept of expressions, and how to do certain graphics with expressions. They are pretty interesting. Expressions mainly are used to reduce the work and to do certain animations that really don't require keyframes. Of course, expressions will reduce the number of keyframes in a terrible way, up to 0 if you want. So we will go through some difficult expressions and some simple expressions. What is important here is not to learn all the expressions, it's to learn the concept of expression, the concept of referencing, and how to pick values, how to use the pick whip in the right way. That's what we will be doing in this section. The thing that we will not be doing is trying to write a JavaScript small programs or scripts. We are not going to learn how to use scripts because scripts is a language, it's JavaScript, and it's not given to everybody to learn that language. And when you're using After Effects, you really don't want to use JavaScripts and to learn scripts and write scripts. That's not necessary. You can always go to very many sites that will give you ready-made scripts that you can use, but it's important that you learn how to change these scripts sometimes and how to understand how After Effects uses expressions. So let's dive in this section, and I hope you learn a lot. If you have any questions, you know very well, you can post your questions in the Q&A section of this course, and I will be very happy to answer you. Let's move on to the first lecture. Hi guys, and welcome to this new lecture about expressions. What we want to do is to focus on After Effects expressions, not on writing scripts, because scripts in After Effects will require from you to learn JavaScript, and this is not for every single artist. Artists usually focus on animation and beauty, and then scripts will come later if ever you learn JavaScript, but it's not necessary. So we will focus on simple expressions in After Effects, how to link properties, with 2 or 3 values that we call array, and how to link rotation with position, scale with rotation, and stories like this. So let me demonstrate for you here how you can use the expressions in After Effects. Just a demonstration, so the animation itself might not be very meaningful, but the expressions will be very meaningful to you. I want to draw a rectangle just here, a simple rectangle. I press Ctrl, Alternate, and Home to put the anchor point just in the middle. Fine. Now I will draw another one, another circle just here, just for demonstration purpose. Cool. I press Ctrl, Alt, and Home to put the anchor point of the layer in the middle. Fine. Now let's create an animation for the circle. So this is our circle. Fine. And this is our square. Okay. Now we create here an animation for the circle. I press P for position. Keyframe the position here and go after 1 second, for example, and move it to this side. That's pretty cool. I can put a couple of keyframes in between. We lift this one up, we keyframe it here and move it down, keyframe it down, and something like this. So we have a nice path that you can work with. Now we have one set of keyframes for a single path, and it's doing well. Right, now what I want to do is to take the square here and rotate it while the circle is moving. So if the circle goes fast, I want it to go, the rotation to go fast, and if the circle goes slow, the rotation will go slow. Now I cannot use parenting here because parenting will not link rotation to position. That's not possible. It will link position to position. So I will come to square and open the rotation. I press R, and I have the rotation here that has a single value. You notice the revolutions here, the 0 is a cumulative value of the rotation. So it has only one value, and I need one value to rotate it. To start writing expressions, I will point on the stopwatch, press Alternate, and click. It will open the transformation working space if you want. It has few parameters. The first one is to enable the expression if you want it on or off. This is also for the graph, to see your expression before and after the expression in the graph. And you have the pick whip, and that's the main element we are going to use. And you have a small arrow here, like all other small arrows we have seen, that will enable you to pick some expressions from the expression menu. Of course, there is a huge number of expressions here, and each one of them has its own, usage. But there is no need for you to know all of them. Just know the practical ones and know the concept, and then you can really choose what you want to do. So to be able to put a value here, instead of having transform rotation, which is exactly this value, I will use the pick whip. I will highlight everything inside here, which is already highlighted. Click on the pick whip and drag. So now I can choose the whole layer, the position, and a value of the position. So most probably I want to use one value, which is the X value, for example, of the position of the circle. That's the horizontal one. And just release. Now, if you look at the expression here, it is not something very difficult. It's actually plain English. If you read this comp, so it means take from this comp and take from this layer, the layer called circle, from the transform property, take position 0. So position is 0, 1, not 1, 2. Remember that. In programming, it always starts from 0 and then goes 1, 2, 3. So position 0 is this position for the circle. So from this comp, from this layer, from the transform, take position 0. And that's it. You have now linked the rotation to the horizontal position of the circle. If I run a RAM preview, here you are. Your square is rotating with the movement of the circle, the position movement of the circle. Now that's pretty cool, but it's not exactly what I want. The animation just stops and is not pretty cool. What I want to do is for the circle to keep on moving. When it comes here at the end, I want it to go back. There is a simple expression I can use. Now I will come to position, point on the stopwatch, press alternate and click on the stopwatch. It will open the expression for position for the circle. I really don't want to write an expression here. I want to write a function. This is a function. I will write loop out and close brackets. Functions always have brackets. Now if I click outside, it commits and it's okay, it has no mistakes. Otherwise it would have showed me a message here. Where they get the loop out from, that's very easy. I could have come to property, because loop out is a function that works on property, and there is loop out here with some parameters that we will see how they work. Now if I run my animation, you notice the loop out has made the circle go back. What's happening exactly? That loop out will loop all these keyframes as long as it passes the last keyframe. So when it passes the last keyframe, it goes back to the first keyframe and so on. Okay, so that is loop out. Now you notice that loop out has other parameters I can use. Now this is not exactly what I want. When it comes here, it's coming back to the end. I want it to come over here and then go back on the same path. If I were to do this with keyframes, I'm really in trouble. I have to duplicate these keyframes. I don't know, do a lot of work here, sync them. But I'm gonna use the parameters of loop out. One parameter that's very nice, and the name is really funny, is ping pong. And that makes sense. If you ever played ping pong, the ball goes on one side, goes from to the next side, and so on. Let's see how it works now. If I play review, here you are, it's going to the left or to the right and then coming back on the same path. You notice the path here is going. Now that's pretty cool. There is another parameter I can use here. I'll show you just for fun. I will come and write continue. That's pretty nice. Now notice what happened at the end of the last keyframe, or at the last keyframe, it's gonna take another path. To show you nicely, I'm gonna put this path just over here, okay? And I will play. Now it goes and then it continues. Notice how it continued. When it exited the last keyframe and exited the path, it will continue in a straight line. That's pretty cool, by the way. Let's change our path a bit. Let's play with it and see what we can do. So we have it here, and we take this one up, for example, and this one up here. I will show you. So I'm gonna remove continue and write ping pong. Again, I will open quotes, Let's write ping pong, close, and then I can add another parameter is which keyframe. I will write keyframe number 1. Okay, actually it's not the first keyframe, but you will see. Let's take the path so we can see where is it going and run a play. Notice now it is looping just before the last keyframe. So the one is one keyframe before. That's pretty cool. Look at your animation now. After the last keyframe, it stays looping between the last keyframe and the keyframe before for the rest of the composition. If you write 2 and we choose our circle, now notice it's looping for the last 2 keyframes. And that's pretty interesting. Let's remove it. It's pretty nice, pretty interesting, and you can have a path and then you can loop it for the keyframes that you want. Cool. So really, to do that with keyframes, I don't think I want to go through it. It's pretty difficult because I have to replicate the path, replicate the keyframes, and if there is any change, I have to be very careful about how I'm changing my path. Here is almost instant. I can come and play with my path the way I want, and the animation will still be ping-ponging and looping the way I designed it. That's very cool. Now, this is nice, but not so nice. Let's add a few things. For example, I'm going to add text here. Just, I will write 1, 2, 3. And put the anchor point in the middle of the layer. Control Alternate Tone. And just take the text. I use the selection tool and put it under. Now, what I want is the text to be moving with my small circle here. Fine. If I use parenting, look what's going to happen. It's going to move with the circle everywhere the circle goes. That's pretty nice, but that's not what I want. What I want is for the text layer to move only horizontally while the ball is going up and down. So if the ball is moving horizontally, the text layer will move horizontally but will not move up and down. How will I do that? First of all, let us remove the parenting and we go to position, of course. I will click on the stopwatch while holding alternate. It will open the expression menu. Again, I'm going to use the pick whip. Notice I didn't write any code until now. So I will take the pick whip and go to my circle. I say, okay, I want it to go on horizontally. So I will link it only to horizontal. Now I want you to draw your attention. What we have done here is take a 2 parameter property and link it to a single parameter. Notice what After Effects have done. Let's play. First of all, now is going, diagonal. Why is that? Because we require here 2 parameters to fulfill the position. We require the horizontal and vertical. Yet I don't want to use the vertical one. But it took temporary temp, that's a variable. It allocated the position 0. Remember we say 0, 1. So it took from this comp, this layer, it took transform, and from transform position 0. But now it needs 2 variables. It duplicated this one. So this one really we don't want it. So I have several choices here. I need to delete this one. I can just pick whip it to original and it will work fine. Notice. Here you are. It's just going horizontal. That's pretty cool. So while the circle is going up and down and horizontal, the text is just going left and right, horizontal. If I didn't want to use the transform here and the pick whip, I could have written value 1. So value 1 will pick the value 1 from this property. Value 0 is the x-axis or the horizontal, value 1 is the vertical one, and I could replace this with value 1. It's good to know. I prefer that you use the pick whip. It's easier than writing value 1. Let's click outside. Here we are. Everything is working very fine. That is cool. But now, this text is only 1, 2, 3 and is moving. It doesn't make any sense. Let's change this. Let's go to the text. Open source text. I will press alternate and click on the stopwatch. I will enable the expression. Notice here, because there is nothing to display, it gave me this red ribbon here with an error message. This is not working. Don't worry about this. As soon as you write a good expression, correct one, and then you click outside, it will remove all this. Now what do I want to put in this text? I'm gonna use the pick whip and take it and put the go to circle. This is my circle. I want to put the value of the horizontal coordinate, that is the x, and I will click simply out. Here you are. Now it's moving left and right, is giving me the value, if you can see it nicely. I don't think so. Let's make it a bit slower. So we take all this one, press alternate and move it, for example, to 3 seconds. Cool. You notice this is a very big figure. It has so many decimals under it. And this is not exactly what we want to display. So how do we fix that? That's pretty easy, by the way. We are going to use another function. I will come to the beginning of the layer, this comp layer and so on. I want to round this one. So I will go to the small arrow here and go to JavaScript math. Don't be scared from JavaScript math. They gave it big names, but really it's nothing. And I'm gonna take the math.round. So the round function has been existing since the 80s and it appears in the basic language at this time. So we are going to round the value here. But notice here, math.round, it wrote me, the syntax of the function here. I need to remove value and close the brackets at the end. Remember always to close your brackets when you use certain functions or certain JavaScript functions. If I click out, look now, it is only rounded, there is no decimal. Now that's pretty nice. Okay, this figure is too big, it's an example. What can I do? Maybe I want to reduce the value. This is a lot of value here. Maybe I want to make it half. If I come at the end here and say divide by half, now I'm doing some arithmetic. I don't call it math. I call it simple arithmetic in the French system. Divided by 2 and click out, then it will be divided by 2. And of course, there is the 0.5 that is appearing. That is because after I did the math round, I divided by 2. So it will display that value. But if I wanted to round after division, I will put the divided by 2 inside the math.round. Pretty simple. Just be careful about the parentheses at the end. If I click, here you are. Cool. Nice. So now you have all this, and notice we have very few keyframes. Let's do something else. Let's take a rectangle, for example, and just put the rectangle here. Simple. And put the anchor point in the middle of the rectangle. Fine. What I want is when this is moving, the circle is moving left and right, or up and down and left and right, I want the pad here to move up and down only. So I'll come back to the beginning. Of course, I cannot parent. If I do parent, it's going to move all over the place with the circle. I will come to my pad. So we call this pad, for example. Let's say we're writing a game. And I will come, of course, to the transform and position. I press alternate, click on the stopwatch. I have the position. Now, what I want to change here is just the Y value, before we change the X value. So I will use the pick whip. I will go down to the circle, and now I will choose the Y value. Of course, I'm just repeating it, but it's important. It has taken the Y value, that's position 1, and replicated. So this one, we don't want it. What we can do is write either value 0 or just click on the pick whip and just choose the X value or value 0. Now notice what I have done here. I've just highlighted the text that I don't want, or the whatever variable that is here. Use the pick whip and drop it over the X value. And here you are, it has replaced the value. I click out and let's see what's happening. Cool. So now the pad here is moving up and down with the circle, and the numbers are moving up and right. Now notice all this work is very nice. Let's take the circle, and if I change the path of the circle, right, then my whole animation will change, and I'm not really using any keyframes. If I play it, here you are, it goes up and down the path. The numbers are moving, left and right, and it's really following the motion of the path or the speed of the path. So this is about expressions, and this is how helpful they can be. Of course, this is a silly example I'm giving you, but it's very meaningful if you just to understand. Now notice what have we done. If I choose all my layers, turn them up, and press U for keyframes, I have only one set of keyframes. If I want the whole animation to become slower, I press alternate, move this for example, and everything has become speedier or even slowly. And I can play in between the keyframes, that is loop out 1 2 3 4 whatever I want. So if there is changes to be done here, it's extremely easy. I can just come here and change the path, delete this keyframe for example, and now you have something totally different, yet the rectangle is still turning according to the speed of the circle. Now I didn't lose the parenting abilities. I can come to ellipse and put just an ellipse here, put the anchor point in the middle, it's not necessary, and parent the ellipse to the square. Though the square is using the expression to move, still you can parent to it, and you can also parent it if you want. It will make a lot of trouble, but still parenting is working. I want to draw your attention to something very important. If you choose all your layers and press EE relatively fast, it will display all your expressions. Notice this is almost English, and there is nothing difficult about it. It's just to get around it, to learn how to use the pick whip, to link the properties together or link one property to another property, and be able to understand how these things work. In the next lecture, we will develop on this concept, and I will take them one by one and I will explain to you. Thanks for listening. See you in the next lecture. Hi guys, and welcome to this new lecture in expressions. If you want to learn a lot about expressions, I have a very special course that will teach you everything you want to know about expressions and infographics. Of course, that course is direct towards creating infographics, but it will manipulate expressions and teach you also a lot about certain presets that are used to do infographics. Fine, for now we want to create this pie, just a simple example, and how to manipulate expressions here. So when the pie is opening, it's a pie chart, the percentage is incrementing. Of course, you could come here and duplicate this one 3-4 times, change the value, and having a series of pies that are coming in, and it will be quite some infographics. You might add some text and so on. Okay, fine, let's start. Let's delete everything, no problem. We create a circle. The first circle is gonna be the background circle. I press Ctrl Shift and create it. Give it a dark color, for example blue, darkish blue, that will do. I will come to ellipse. I will go to transform ellipse and set it in the middle of the composition, and also set the anchor point in the middle. That's cool. Fine. Now I want to create the pie itself. What I will do is to duplicate that layer, okay, and give it a stroke. So we come to the stroke, full stroke, and make it white, and that make it a bit bigger. But notice now the stroke in the layer is coming, outside and inside. Is the 87 or the 90 here is divided in two. To fix that, so let's call this background, okay, for the pie, and this is the pie itself. Cool. To fix here, what we do is not to resize it, because it will never come exactly the same. We have duplicated these circles. So what we'll do is to come to content, we go to ellipse, and we come to ellipse path, or in ellipse 1, and we come and we add a offset path. Now I have -90, the offset path is set at 10, I will make it -45. And now the two circles are 100% centered, and the pie is looking good. I can come also select both of them and scale them up if I like, and click and scale them up. We still have the same. Fine, now I want to animate the pie. For that I will use here the trim path, and I will program the trim path. It goes from 0 to 100% using the end. So I come to the end, I keyframe it, make it 0%, come to 2 seconds for example, just to show you, and make it 75%. So now it's not working because I need to offset it. I will offset it with -80. Yep, and here we are. It's moving along the path. That's all you knew. I will come to the text here and click in the middle of the text and write 1 2 3 for now. Put the anchor point of the text in the middle. and center my text in the middle of the composition. It will center in the middle of the circles. Here you are. Fine. Now I want the text to display the percentage of the opening of the pie. I will come to text. I will open text as usual, open source text and pick whip it to the end. Of course, I'm sure you knew that. I will come and pick whip to the end. And here you are, it's over there. But we need to make it non-decimal. So I will come to the source text and you know that function. I want to type it, so I type math.round, open brackets, press and go to the end and close the brackets. And here you are, you have your text coming in. Beautiful. Then I want to add the percentage, so that is double quote, percent, double quote, and cool, and you have it. You can increase the size of the text if you want, make it bigger here. Now, if you preview, cool, it's happening very nice. You can change the percentage. All you have to do is to come to the end of the trim path and go to the keyframe, for example, and change the percentage the way you want, and everything will work. Now this is pretty cool. Now you notice that the 0 appears in the beginning, and we don't want that. So we come to the text, we open opacity T. Now I can put keyframes on the opacity, but that will be silly. What I will do is to open the expression and go down to the end again and put the end here. Now the opacity is a function of the end. If you start, it will be at 0 because end is 0. If you scroll up, it will be not 100% because this is going only to 77%. How do I solve the problem? In a very easy way. I'll just multiply the value of opacity by 2 times 2 or 1.5, whatever you want, provided that at the end it's is equal or more to 100%. And here you are, you have it. Now that's a pretty cool one, but you can do here. Usually what I will do is to take all this and make Ctrl C and Ctrl V. Now I have the pi 2. I will take pi 2 and put it here, for example, and pi 1, put it on this side, and pi 1, pi 2, put it here. Come, here you are. Very nice. Now I will come to the keyframes, select all of them, see where are the keyframes. I will go to the end. No, pi 2, for example, we wanted to go to a little bit. Here you are. Now there is a problem. You notice that a pi 1 or this pi is still having the value of this end. So how do I change that? I will come to text for this pi, open the expression like double E, and you notice here I have trim path 1. What I must do here is to change for pi 1 to pi 2, and I will put pi 2, and here also I want to put pi 2. Did it work? Yes, it did work. Here you are. So now this is the simple changes that you have to do to get replication of a certain item. Now you have a very good one. You don't need to pre-compose or to create many things, but this will work. Of course, I will not go for 1, 2, 3. I will write text 1, for example, or this one is text 2, and this is text 1, and name pi 1. I would have done this before, and back 1. So it's very clear what is happening here. I could also use the index here, and we will see that later on, to be able to give the values that I want. Fine. Thanks very much for listening. I hope this was useful. Doing these pies, it's very nice, and it will help you a lot if you're doing infographics or whatever you're doing, a documentary and stories like this. It's quite interesting. We have used the expression here just to control everything. If you press U, you have only 2 keyframes, and it's enough to change the value of the last keyframe, so to change the value that's appearing in all the graph, and it's pretty convenient. See you in the next lecture, and thanks for listening to this one. Hi guys, welcome to Expression again, and this is Loai with you from aeschoolonline.com. Now, in the previous lecture, we have created a pie chart like this, and it's very easy. We duplicated the layers. We ended up with 6 layers. Now, what happens if you have, 12 charts or 6 charts that you want to display, each one of them for a certain sales figure? How would you do it? Would you duplicate all the layers? Would you pre-compose? And most importantly, what would you do when the values change? Now, in this lecture, I'm going to show you a simple method where you are going to use a control to be able to set the values using, of course, expressions for the percentage. And it's going to be lots of fun and pretty easy. So the first thing I want to do is to pre-compose these three layers. I'm going to put them in a separate pre-composition, and I'm going to call it pi1. Okay. Now I have here pi1. I'll open it and look exactly what I have. If I press E twice, I will have the source text linked to the end in this composition and also linked to the trim path of the end, of course. And I have here the pi. So the first thing here that it's all controlled by the values of these two keyframes, and they are inside this composition. So how do I work? I will come to pie chart here. This is the main one. I'm going to create a new layer. I can create any kind of layer. I can create a null object, a shape layer even, or an adjustment layer. I will go for adjustment layer. I will open the adjustment layer here and go to effects and preset and look at control. Okay, now in control, the last one will be slider control here. Take one slider control and drop it. We'll see how it works. I'll take another slider control and drop it. That's not pretty good. I should have come here, says control pi1. Okay, to make it very clear. And if I delete this one and duplicate this one, I will have control pi2. So what is a slider? A slider is just a slider. It goes from 0 to 100, but of course you can even make it 500, 600, whatever figure you want. So I will come to the slider here and keyframe at 0, come to 2 seconds here and make it 100%. So my slider now, if I press U, I will find it's going from 0 to 100%. Cool. I will lock this layer here so it doesn't go away. It stays here. I will go to pi and look at my end. I will remove the keyframes from the end and bring it to the beginning, make it 0, for example, if you'd like, and open the expression. Now, I will use the pick whip to link the end to control pi1 slider, as simple as this. Now, notice what's happening. It goes from 0 to 100%. If I go to my main composition, I go to the last keyframe. If I change the value here, then it's working fine. And here you are. So I have created a control for my composition here or for the pi. Now I can replicate that and play with the control pi2. Let's go to pi1 before. And what we'll do, we use the area of interest or region of interest and just crop it as much as we need. That will be okay. And come back, say composition, crop comp to region of interest. Come back to the main one. Now I have, this is the adjustment layer. I will just hide it. I have here a pre-comp. I can size it, put it here. That's cool. Go to my project. I need to go to the project. I just want to click here and duplicate this pi. Now I have pi2. I will open pi2. Let's look at the expressions. I press EE. And notice here what we have. We have composition. Now the composition is not this comp. It is pie chart. It is the main composition. From the pie chart composition, you take layer adjustment layer. Okay, that name is too long. Let's go to pie chart. Take adjustment layer. I want to see the name. Press enter, say control %. Okay, so this one will control all the %. Come back to pi1. You notice it changed the name. Come back to pi2. Look at it carefully. From composition pie chart, take layer control % and then take the effect that is inside this layer. So if you come to pie chart, you notice here control % layer has an effect, and this effect is control pi1 and control pi2. So actually you are linking the effects now, and from control pi1 take the effect called slider. Okay, so we have the slider here. This is the effect, is called slider. When you came to here, you notice you have a slider control. So that's the effect you are taking from here. Fine. Now I don't want control pi1 for 2. I want control pi2. And here we are. And now if I come back to my main chart and go to project, take by 2 and drop it, I will come to control by 2 and keyframe it the same. I can keyframe the slider here at 0, come to 2 seconds or before or after, anytime you want, and make it a certain figure. For example, you notice how the slider can go beyond 100. Let's say 55. And now I have full control of all my pies within the control % layer, and that is very powerful. You can move your keyframes, make them faster, and so on. Let's create another pie. I will go to pie 2, duplicate it, it will become pie 3. I will open pie 3 and right here just pie 3. Okay, that's the slider. Now the slider doesn't exist. Let's go back here, take this one and duplicate it. That's slider 3. It corrected here, fine, it seems it's working. I will come to the project, take pie 3, drop it here, and I can make it smaller. Okay, I will go to control pie 3. It is already keyframed, and here you are, you have it. Let's move it to this way, and now you have many graphs. Of course, you can adjust them, you can lay them out the way you want to make them, you know, quite interesting. But also you have the power to come to the background here, change the color of the background here to whatever you want. Okay, you notice that the pie has a color, a fill, we remove it. Let's remove it. Cool, now you change colors, come back to pie 1, and here you are, you have so many things. How do you control this? That's very easy. You can come to the control preset here, layer, and change your keyframes, do whatever you want, make them, you know, come longer, with more time, or less time, the way you like it. And what did you learn here? We learned how to use the effect presets. This is an effect, in fact, the control one, and it's a slider control. Slider controls are very much used, and you can really create a lot of control with the sliders control. Also, duplicating slider control and controlling from one single layer is a lot of power for you, lots of simplicity, and a peace of mind that, you know, if you have to change your figures, you change the percentage, it's very easy just in one single place. Now, I hope I explained everything to you, because there is a lot here that can be done, and there is a lot of creativity. I would like you to go to After Effects and start using the slider control. Of course, you have color control, layer control, and stories like this here that we will use later in this course and learn about them. And this is the section about expression control. Let's remove the control here. And if you come to expression control, you click and you see you have 3D point control, angle control, checkbox, colors, and so on, that are very powerful that we'll use later on. Thanks very much for listening. I hope this was very useful for you. Please go to After Effects, do your first pie chart, pre-compose it, and make as many pie charts as you want. Organize them in a beautiful way you like, you know, make them always circles, and you can adjust them, put them on the side, change the colors, and create your project. Now notice this is not only infographics, it can work for anything, for any project you are doing, or even for your own work, and it will help you a lot. Thanks very much. Hi guys, and welcome to Expressions, in this special lecture where I'm gonna show you a couple of things that will be very useful and you can almost use them anytime and anywhere. Now we're gonna try to do an animation just like this, in fact much better. So this is rotating, you know, notice how it's flickering. We're also gonna move these ticks here, or the indicators, and try to do something a bit exciting. First of all, I will delete all the layers, doesn't matter. So I will create a rectangle here, just a simple rectangle. Come to the rectangle transform and put it in the middle, that's the position 0, 0. And put the anchor point is just in the middle, just to confirm. Fine. What I will do, I will introduce a repeater here. I will say add a repeater. And remember that repeater, we used to give it a number of copies, for example, 80 copies, and it goes sideways. We come to the transform repeater and put it at 0. Now I want to rotate it. So remember here the rotation, we used to write 360 divided by a number of copies, and when you come back, change the number of copies, you have to come back here. But it is not helpful at all when it is visual. We want to do it the right way. First of all, let's take this rectangle and remove that, and take the position and put it upward, just like this. Cool. And make this a bit smaller, take it down a bit so we have a nice repeater. Fine. Let's come back to the repeater. We have the rotation here. We are going to write the rotation. We're gonna open the expression and write 360 divided and use the pick whip to go get the number of copies. So now it is divided by 80. Now what's practical about this is every time I change the number of copies, the angle or the rotation is always, adjusting itself. And that's pretty neat and save you a lot of work, mainly when you're trying to adjust something, just eyeballing it. Let me put here 80, for example. I want to change the color of the field to white. Okay, and that's okay. We go to the size. Let's make the size just 4. Cool. Now let's duplicate the shape layer. Let's say this is white, and we duplicate it now. We create another one. We call it blue. And from blue here, what I will do is come to content to rectangle path 1 and make it a bit bigger. Okay, go back to the number of copies. Look how easy it has become now. It is pretty nice. It's just configuring itself with the rectangle. So all I have to do is to make the decision what I want to do. So here if I put 8, it will be quite cool. Fine, I'll change the color. Take the color and make it like we promised, light blue, so we can see it even lighter. Okay, so we have this one. Fine, let's go back to the first layer, the white layer here, and open the size and make the size a bit shorter. Cool. So now we have something very beautiful that's on the screen. Let's start now. We have used the expression to set the rotation for the number of copies. That is pretty convenient. You can remember it and work on it. So let's go and create another rectangle. I will come from here and pull something like this. This is the needle. It's going to give us the speed, for example. Come to rectangle path. Let's remove this. Let's make it a bit thinner. So we want to ensure that it is directly vertical. Now I want to enter an expression here to rotate this one, continuously rotate this layer. So I will come to rotation, press R. This is my rotation. I'm going to enter an expression, a very simple expression. I call it time. Now time will operate in seconds and milliseconds, not in frames. Notice it's not even moving, it's moving very little because 5 is just 5 degrees. So what I will do, I will multiply it, for example, by 60. I can multiply it by 50 or any number, and notice what's happening. Now it's moving all the way around until the end of the composition. So the rotation is equal to the time multiplied by 60. You can make it faster. We can write 600 if you like. And here you are, is rotating all the way. Of course, you have to come and adjust the anchor point, but in our case, it's okay. That's very beautiful. Let's make it only 100. I like 100. Good. Now we want to play with these indicators here. How do we do that? Let's come to the blue of the indicator, and we have the rotation for the whole layer, of course. So I will twirl down this one and go to transform and come to the rotation. I'm going to enter an expression here. One of the expression I can enter is the wiggle expression. Now we've seen wiggle. We want to enter now the wiggle expression in the expression. Let's say we wanted to do 5 times and wiggle, let's say 20 degrees or 50 degrees, 90 degrees, whatever. Okay, here you are. And now it is really wiggling at 90 degrees 5 times per second. If you make it nicer, that is 0.5, it will rotate very nicely, jumping. Cool. Now let's go back to the white one, white, and open the rotation, alternate, click, and what you can do here is to enter another function is random. So random of let's say 180 degrees. So it's going to give us a number from 0 to 180 every second. Let's see. Now you notice how they're going every 1 second. Cool. Also you can enter the wiggle. It's up to you. What random is used, wiggle is different. Let's say 0.6 by 360. Oh no, 180. Okay, again. Here you are. So they are both wiggling now, and the rotation here is going on. Notice how we use time. We can also adjust the wiggle here, And if you want to have an increment wiggle, that will be crazy, but we can enter time here. So the number of wiggles now will become very high. Here you are, you notice how it's wiggling with time. Of course, the wiggle increases with time because the time is increasing. So these are several ways that you can use to make your animation a bit. Now we have used time. Let's write something here. Let's say 1, 2, 3, and come back and open the text and go to source text. And we have several options here. We can write time, so it will show us the time. And if you play our preview, you notice that the time, you notice how the time is increasing, but it is decimal. Now time has only 2 numbers after the comma. What we can do, 2 decimal points, what you can do is just multiply it by 100, and we have a full figure. Here you are. So the time is always increasing and it's all rotating. Now why this is beautiful, why it is nice, why I'm showing you. First of all, you learned about time. That's the first thing you want to use, and you can use time in so many ways: division, multiplication, whatever you want. You learned about the wiggle, and you learned about the expression for the copies, where you divide the number of copies. You notice here 360 divided by the content. Cool, that's very nice. Now let's select all our layers and press U. I press again. There are no keyframes. You have created a whole animation without any keyframes, just using simple expressions. Let's try to make the indicator here, flash. First of all, I will call it indicator. Cool. I'm gonna open the opacity. Press T for opacity. I will press alternate, press on stopwatch, and let's try the expression wiggle 5 times a second by 100. So it's gonna go from -100 to 100. But it's okay, we will use 0 to 100, that's all that's going to be seen. If I play it now, notice how it's flashing in and out depending on the wiggle itself. Let's do it again. Here you are, you see it flashing. So using the wiggle in the opacity also is an option to make things, flash around. Also, you can use random of 100, so it gives us a value between 0 and 100. You see, with random it's flickering much speedier because the random value is changing much speedier than the wiggle. So it's up to you to do either wiggle or random. They are both used in opacity. I would like you to train on that. This animation is very useful if you're doing HUDs, if you're doing something that needs this rotation all the time during your composition. You can create more circles, you can create the dashes, wiggle them through the expression, or wiggle them through time and random. So you have learned about them. Thanks very much for listening, and I'll see you in the next lecture. Hi guys, and welcome to this new lecture in expression. This is an important lecture. Actually, I'm going to give you the concept of interpolation, or the expressions that deal with interpolation. We will look at a few of them, and it's up to you later on to develop your skills and to, create more animations. Many times in an animation, what you want to do is to convert a linear movement, a straight movement, into a circular movement, or vice versa. We also want to take a rotation movement or a circular movement or a linear movement and convert it into a single value, and we want to extract all the values in between. Meaning, if this circle goes left and right, for example, on its x-axis, I want this shape to move in a circular movement from the left to the right. So this one will be oscillating left and right, and this one will be going on the x-axis. So how do we do that? In fact, there is a simple and easy to understand expression that we are going to use. First of all, let's go for keyframes. I'll keyframe the position here, and it is 250. You notice the x is 250. That's very good. Let's remember this figure. We come after 1 second and we make it 1700. So that's the movement I have, is a linear movement that goes from 250 and the next one is 1700. I want this shape to rotate -45 degrees when the circle is at the beginning. So it will come on this side, -45, and when it comes to the end it goes 45. Now I don't want to do keyframing because I might add several of them, make something nice, or just complicate things later on. I want to use the minimum keyframes, and I want to have expressions that are very easy to be changed. So how do I do that? That's very easy. Let's go to bar. Let's open rotation because it's going to rotate. Notice I put the anchor point on top. That's okay. Let's adjust it even more. It's okay. It's not bad. It is just over here. Yeah, cool. Then from rotation, I'm gonna press alternate and click. I will open the expression. I will click on the small arrow and you can see interpolation. Interpolation has linear, and linear that gives you more parameters. So actually you can use it with 2 parameters, or you can use it with 4 parameters. We are going to use this one. And there is ease, is in, and is out. I will do only linear and ease, and then actually you can do it by yourself. I will use the linear t. Now look at the values that we have. We have t. This is the value that's going to be interpolated. We have t minimum, that's the minimum of the t, and t maximum, that's the maximum of the t, and then it will return value 1 and value 2. So for this minimum we will get this value 1. For this maximum we'll get this value 2. And in between t minimum and t maximum, After Effects is going to give us the values and interpolate all the values for us. So what is t? T is the movement, of course, of the horizontal position of the ball. So all I have to do is to pick whip it and put it on the X, right? Not on on the position itself, on X. Now it's giving me something very big. That's okay, it doesn't matter. All we know, this is position 0 from the horizontal layer in this composition. Now what is the maximum? Remember we put 250, or this is the minimum, sorry. And then what is the maximum? Remember we said 1700. I delete the other characters. Now for here, I'm gonna put minus 45, or minus 45 for example, and 45 degrees. Of course we're working on rotation, and here 45 degrees. Here you are. So what are we saying here? We're saying take the value of horizontal 250 here, the X, and when it is 250, make it minus 45. When it is 1700, make it 45. As simple as this. When it is between 250 and 1700, find a value that is between minus 45 and 45 in a linear interpolation, and not a logarithmic or interpolation or any other kind of interpolation. I'll click outside and run our animation. Now notice here, when it is on this side, it is 250 minus 45. I don't like this. Let's make it 45 here and minus 45 here. Simple. Okay, so now that's better. So here 45 and here minus 45. Now I don't want this just to go once. I'm gonna ping pong it. So I alternate and click and say loop out. You notice that loop out ended up to be very useful. I say ping pong. Cool. Fine. Now let's play it. And it's going left and right, and this one is going left and right, but in a circular movement. I can change the values here. And let's say I'll make it 90. And here I'll make it minus 90. Just to show you more. And here you are, it is working. Now what is this linear here? I want you to go to choose the expression, the rotation, go to the graph. And in here, we want to click on the graph. Now I can see the graph of the expression. Of course, this is a value graph. So this is what's happening. The value of the rotation is going negative, minus 90, then positive 90, and so on. You know, we haven't seen the graph here. So that's pretty cool. We have our interpolation and it's working very fine. Now, if I come to bar 1 and duplicate it as easy as 2, and put it here, take this one and just move it somewhere over here. Now I have both of them going, in this direction. But also I can do more. I can, rotate them from inside and make sure that we have them all connected on this anchor point. I'm not going to do that now, but you can play with it. So this is it. It's pretty nice, pretty easy. Now let's do something else. We have seen that we have another one in interpolation called ease with 4 values or 5 parameters. I'm gonna come here and change this one to ease, just ease, E-S-E, and okay, fine, it's done. Now when it's running, it's gonna be a bit smoother. You notice the difference between one and the second one. So this one is smooth. Now what happened here? Look at the graph. Cool. You know, the graph has become very smooth, and it's like a Bezier graph here. But the graph for bar 2, if we open rotation, and then it is totally different. Now I'm showing both of them. In fact, you notice the difference. Let's take rotation only, and we need to open the expression for rotation. Here you are. So this one is pretty smooth. Let's remove this one. Let's not show it at all, and show this one only. So this one is rectangular or angled, and this one is quite smooth. This is a sine wave or a sync movement. So this is how you use linear, and this is how you can use the graph. So notice here when I click, I'll say show post expression graph. So after the expression, now I removed it. Now I put it back. Here the same. If I choose this one, the rotation here, I can see the difference between ease and just linear. So ease is about making it easy ease. If you want, it is the motion. Linear is just a strict motion where the values go up and down. Remember that it's pretty easy when you get used to reading the references, and then everything else is just values. So here we have from this comp, this layer horizontal, use transform position 0 and take it from the horizontal layer. Cool. So thanks very much for listening. I hope I was clear. If you have any questions, come back and ask your questions. I will be very happy to answer them all. Hi guys, I hope my explanation in the previous lectures have been beneficial and you understood how to use the expressions. Of course, while you're using After Effects, you will be able to learn more expressions and you will gather a good knowledge about all the expressions. What is important is to understand the concept and how they work. Some expressions will present a challenge and some of them are really very simple and you can just use them. So this is your challenge now and your practice activity, and it's important that you do it. Not only that you practice on After Effects, but also you practice how to use the expressions, how to make a logical animation, because we have just been doing examples without any usefulness for the animation. So your challenge here is useful. So let me run a ramp preview and I'll show you. You notice that the axes are appearing through opacity. Then 3 bars appear consecutively one after the other with the maximum value, scrolling from the lowest value 0. You can see 0 sometimes, and it goes up to the maximum value. So this is your practice activity and this is your challenge. Please try to do it. Put your head into it and try to, even make it better. You can, for example, add the small dots here for the axes, and you can make it 3-dimensional. That will be very interesting. You can take the value here, instead of it appearing on the bottom stable, you can just put it above the bar and it goes up with the bar. That will be quite a challenge, by the way. So the 59 will appear on top, the 115 will appear on top, and so on. So try to do this challenge, try to do this practice activity, and I will see you in the next lecture and show you how it can be done in an easy way. Actually, it's not that difficult. See you in the next lecture. So let's try to resolve the challenge and I will show you how to do it. I might not do everything, but at least we'll do the main expressions here. Let's create a new composition, have our background to be black. Cool, here we are. Now the first thing you want to draw is the lines here. Let's put the first line. Let's put a stroke of, for example, 10 will do, and give it the stroke itself white. Here you are. And then let's put the anchor point just in the middle, just for the sake of it. And we draw another one. We draw another line here. We can put them in the same shape layer. That's no big deal. Let's go like this and put it over here. Fine. So this is done. These are the axes and everything is fine. Fine. So let's draw our first rectangle that we want to make it a bar. I will draw the rectangle. That will be cool. I will remove the stroke. Let's just eliminate it and put the anchor point in the middle. Now, of course, it's gonna grow from down. So what we will do is to take the anchor point of the layer and to put it just at the bottom here. It's supposed to snap. Fantastic. Cool. Now we need the text. Let's add the text. So this one we rename bar 1, and we add the text just here. Let's say 1, 2, 3. Cool. And we put the anchor point in the middle. Let's take the text and just put it on bottom here. It's snapping. Let's remove the snapping and just put it here. Fine. Cool. So I want the graph or this bar to grow from 0 here to any value. It can be 100, 200, 300. Okay. So we will call the scale. We will keyframe the scale here. We go above, let's say 1 second or something like this, and we remove the link. We make it bigger, for example 106 or 110. Okay, we come back to the beginning, we make it 0 here. Cool. Let's look at it. Very good. So we have a small animation here. We come to the text. Of course, as usual, we're gonna come to the source text, alternate, and we have our expression, and we go and pick the value, which is the scale value here. Cool. Let's click outside. Did we get it? Yeah, pretty easy. You see how it's done? Now, very fine. We've done this one, but you know, the figures here, because this keyframe is here, is giving, you know, full figures without decimals. I'll just come to the text here, to the expression of the text, come home, and you know, now we have to put math.round, open brackets, go to the end and close the brackets. We don't have to put a percentage here because it's not really a percentage. Cool. This is done. Now this is the 0 is appearing here. No problem. We're gonna move these 2 layers. So I have bar 1 and the text here. We say text bar 1. Pretty easy. Cool. We have done it. Very fine. Let's take it a bit. Run to see we are cool with the speed. Now, what we want to do is to duplicate this. We don't press Ctrl D. We press Ctrl C and Ctrl V. So we have bar 2 and text 2. Come here and we click, hold, and move it to the left. We will do the same. Ctrl C, Ctrl V. Click and hold and take it this side. Okay. Fine. We try to adjust them. Make them in the middle. Cool. So the only parameter I have here is the scale. I will come to bar 3, open the scale, that's the bar 3, and just give it any value, provided that, of course, I am on the right keyframe. I can use the keyframe here and move it up, for example. Okay, and you notice the value here is not changing. This is because if I press double E, it's still tied to bar 1. So what we're gonna do is to put bar 3 here. And now it's okay, it's moving with the bar. Come to this one. This is bar 2, open the scale and come to its keyframe and make it maybe smaller. Good. Come to the text here, press double E and make this one bar 2. Good. That's done. Fine. So this is 56 and the other one is working fine. Bar 1, we leave it the way it is. There are no changes to be done here. Cool. What have we done? We have our animation. And let's make it bigger a bit. Okay, the first shape layer, this one we call it axis, and we opened its opacity. Come in the beginning, keyframe the opacity at 0 and come a bit more just here and make it 100, so it appears pretty nicely. Cool. You see the zeros and so on is appearing, no problem. What we are going to do is take all of them and move them on this side so the axes appear first. Then we take the other 2. This is bar 2, move it. Bar 3, move it over here, and let's see what we have. Cool, is done. It's pretty simple and pretty easy, provided that you have the habits of doing it. Of course, I have done thousands of this, but you want really to manipulate all these figures. Of course, you can come and put the title. So that was a pretty easy challenge. There are several things that you can add here. What I will do, create a new composition. Let's say comp2 for now, it doesn't matter. and come to comp 1 here, the one that has the challenge, composition setting, and say graph. Okay, now I will come to the comp 2 and put in it the graph. This is the graph. I'll put it here. What I want to do is I want to make it three-dimensional, so it will open. Very fine. I will open the rotation here. I will rotate it on the Y, for example. Open the position, take it behind a bit. Okay, that's pretty cool. Let's open Shift R, having the rotation. Let's rotate it a bit more. Cool. So that will be the first state. I will keyframe the rotation and keyframe the position. Come back after a few seconds here and release Z all the animation. So we take the rotation, make it 0, and the value here, the position, take it at 0 also. Okay, so that's what will happen now. It will be pretty cool. It will swing a bit. You can come and adjust more. For example, here, make it more like this, and this one like this, the way you like. And maybe also you can move it this way on the y-axis, move it that way, and you have a very nice animation, pretty speedy. Let's make it slower. Of course, it depends on what you want to do. Here you are. So this is how you can make it three-dimensional. These infographics and these expressions are all explained in my course for infographics. If you take that course, you will become really quite knowledgeable in infographics and expressions at the same time. Thank you very much for listening. I appreciate it, and move on to the next section or to the next lecture.